Hello and good morning. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you doing?
Absolutely fantastic. I'm so proud of you for releasing this book. And more importantly, I'm so proud of you for having culture and tradition inside this book. And the reason why I bring that up and why it touches me so deeply is that I attended a global food market just the other day. I was amazed at how much stuff I don't know about, but I need people like you to teach me. And because, there's so much to explore out there. And when you're writing books for children, you're teaching them as they grow in their generation.
Thank you. That's wonderful to hear from you.
Putting the story together, writing a children's book is like, to me, it's like a Hallmark card. You've got to be concise, but you've got to have that story. You've got to be able to touch the heart. How did it happen for you?
I love that you said has to be consistent with exactly what picture books need to be. It's usually 500 words or less, so every word counts. It's taken a very long time. Like I said, for picture books, they're actually very difficult to write. And also for picture books, it's a collaboration between the author and the illustrator. We need to have the text, which I provide, but I also need to provide room to the illustrator to bring their own heart and their own imagination to the story, which Michelle Lee, my illustrator, did brilliantly here.
Does she get to hear the story first before she goes to work? Because, these pictures match exactly what you're trying to share through word.
Yes. So what happens is my editor revised it with me until we felt that it was just right. And then Michelle got the manuscript and she read through it and said, yes, I would love to illustrate this book.
To open up the book on the inside cover, I love the idea that you're showing photographs because everybody, even children, love photographs. And I would love to see the number of children who in their own way see themselves inside these photographs.
Yes, and that's one of the wonderful things about picture books is that Michelle Lee actually brought her own family into the book. So I believe that some of these photographs are based on her own family life and her own family photos.
Wow. The book we're talking about is Chloe's Lunar New Year. You're going to educate people on what a Lunar New Year is and that it's not something that just happens in a few hours.
Yes, it is an entire occasion. And in this book, I'm talking about the Taiwanese tradition of a union dinner, which happens on Lunar New Year's Eve. And it's a time for everyone to gather. So many families are scattered around the country now, but it's the one time of the year everyone must come back. And there's feasting and togetherness and laughter and joy and catching up on everything that's happened to, each other that we don't get to hear during the rest of the year. Yeah. And then, of course, all that feasting, the food. And you just went to that food mark. And so here is an example of something that readers may not know about, Of course, the oranges, which symbolizes wealth and prosperity because of the gold color. But in the book, I also have hot pot, which is right? It's so wonderful and so many delicious ingredients in one pot. And it's a communal way of eating, too, because we're all eating from the same pot and ladling the soup into our individual bowls. There's fish, which is wonderful and very healthy. I have daikon radish cake, which a lot of places also call turnip cake. And it might sound kind of strange, right? Oh, turnip cake, radish cake, what is that? But we also have carrot cake with cream cheese frosting, and we all know how delicious that is. Mm-hmm. And the daikon radish cake is basically, it's savory though. It's fried up, and so it's actually crispy and delicious that way.
Mm. If more people understood the true history of what a hot pot is and that it's not just a bowl of soup. My very good friend Tan sat down with me with a hot pot and he goes, first of all, you have to have it very hot. And I said, why? Conversation. It slows you down. It's about conversation. And he starts breaking down everything that you put into the hot pot. Like you said, even the 1,000-year-old egg, he would say, this is tradition from the past that you're bringing forward. And I love the story of the hot pot.
Yes, and I believe that, the noodles, which of course in many places it signifies long life, right? So many of the ingredients do have significance.
One of the subliminal messages inside the story is the way that Noah and Chloe explore, especially when Noah is putting on his rain boots and things like that. I love that because as a child, I'll bet you that anybody who's got their eyes on that picture, they're going, I got shoes like that too. And it teaches them that you don't have to be in front of the TV. Go explore.
That's right. The world is out there, not in front of the TV, right? And rain boots, because when it's raining, the best thing to have on your feet are boots that they keep them dry.
So true. So true. So when you write a book like this and you put a book like this together, do you think of the next step level in the way of developing any type of a website to go with it to help teach, the traditions that you're sharing? Do you try to turn this into a movie short? What's next for you?
Oh, as far as this book is concerned, I have a cooking video on my website where my daughter and I cooked at Thanksgiving, another family gathering occasion. We made the fortune cake. I have the recipe at the back of the book. And the fortune cake is so interesting because once you've steamed it, the top splits open. And so you have almost like a flower or a smile. So it's a very joyful cake to eat.
See, I was going to ask you about that recipe because going back to that global market, I really want to be able to go in there and get authentic flavors and things like that. And so with this book, I took a picture of it immediately and said, this is it. The next time we go into that store, I'm going to make this cake.
Wonderful. You should definitely do it. It's delicious. It actually reminds me a little bit of like a English toffee pudding.
Oh, my goodness.
Kind of sticky and sweet.
How many giggles are you going to get from the little ones when you start talking about the ginger fish and the snapper fish and stuff like that? And I love the big bright page where they go fish eyes. Oh my! Because we all say that with fish eyes.
Exactly. Yes, that is one of my favorite spreads that I wrote in this book because I had this image of these kids going, because fish eyes, right? When you stare into fish eyes, you have to go, oh my.
Yeah, because I just saw a cooking show the other day, and they were using fish heads in soup and stuff like that. And my wife was like, going, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "Yes, you have to." And then when they explained the flavors and stuff like that, that is all part of that because it's eating the whole fish and being grateful for that moment where they sacrificed their life so you could have some nutrients.
Exactly. And of course, because you're using the entire fish, you're also not wasting food,
Yep.
right? And that's one of the things, is so environmental that way.
Yeah. The book we're talking about is Chloe's Lunar New Year, which is about preparing the feast. And you feature something that so many times I will see young adults with their children and they'll have green beans and I'll say, are you going to snap them? They have no idea what I'm talking about, but yet in your book, you're snapping beans.
Well, that's one of the fun things about green beans, right? Because otherwise it's kind of tedious because you have to get rid of all those ends. But if you're just having fun and snapping them, now it's no longer a chore. It's an occasion.
To include the storyline of everybody coming over to the celebration. In this day and age where we all were locked down for a little bit and away from each other, I love that when the door opens and people are starting to come into your story. It says everyone is here and Uncle Tony and everybody, they're ready to come in and celebrate the way that a community or a family really does.
Yes, and especially, as you said, pandemic, we were so separated from each other, and it is so important to be able to gather. And I think that's one of the things we all learned during the last few years.
What is the length to write a book like this? I mean, because my last book took me 2.5 years, which I'm never going to get that time back. But for you to work with the illustrator, to work with the editors, the timing, to lay it all out. How long did the process take?
It's actually a very long journey. Every picture book has its own thing. So I started this in 2017.
Oh God!
And yes, it's that limit of the 500 words. It's very hard to tell a story in 500 words, and I think the simplicity of it is also kind of masks how difficult it is to write a picture book.
Julia Cameron from The Artist Way always talks about the different places that writers go. Do you have a writing chair or a place where you know that when you step into that zone that you've given yourself permission to be a creative storyteller?
I do. One of the fortunate things that happened before the whole pandemic started is that the month before we bought a cargo van. And so during the pandemic, we just threw some foam pads in there, and that was my writing space. It was like my little cozy writing office.
Oh yeah,
I loved it.
Yeah, you get into that zone in there, and it's like that. Man, those creative little beasts inside of you go, oh, good. People get to hear my voice. And so often, many storytellers, I always say that there's hider writers out there. They write, but then they hide what they write, and it takes people like yourself to get them to move their writing forward.
Well, writing is so personal, and so one of the things is I think a lot of people fear rejection because then it feels like it's not just the words that are being rejected, but a personal rejection. But you know what? For me, I bring my words out. I have many critique groups. I say, look at this, and please tell me everything that is wrong with it, because that is the only way for me to get better. And thank goodness for them.
How do you embrace your heart for something like that? Because you know how we are. We're injured little soldiers out here when it comes to creativity.
I just hold my words very lightly. Mm-hmm. I know that they're very malleable, and the most important thing is that I want to bring my stories to my readers. Mm-hmm. And I know that the only way to reach that is for me to get feedback. Without feedback, this book would never have reached publication. Wow.
You got to tell me, where can listeners go to give you lots of love, to find out more about you and start supporting you every day?
Oh, please visit my website, LaMotte.com. I have my cooking videos there with my daughter cooking the fortune cake. I also have a video of myself cooking with my son, and that is from Measuring Up. Oh. And also, I'm personalizing books through Imprint Bookstore. Hello at imprintbookstore.com if you want a personalized copy. I'd also have some of my fine books at other indie bookstores too.
Please come back to this show anytime in the future. The door is always going to be open for you.
I would love to do that. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed talking to you this morning.
Well, I love where your heart is. Be brilliant this weekend, okay?
Thank you. And happy Lunar New Year. Go out and celebrate.